Just maintaining Copic markers that I've been doing over the last couple of years. I put all my links at the top before I started broadcasting. And this is the first time I'm actually streaming with the chat window live. And that was the notification that I'm live that I already knew. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through like the steps that I do to kind of maintain Copic markers, a lot of which I've learned quite recently, actually, a lot of it. Basically, the reason I started investing in Copic markers is because they're easy to kind of maintain and update, and you can basically use the same marker over and over again and just rejuvenate it, which is what I'm going to do tonight, is just go through the processes of how to make the marker like new again. And basically, this doesn't belong up here. Sorry, folks. I was looking for my one of my tools that I misplaced that I needed for this demo, and I got my entire toolbox full of stuff. But in any case, over time, the Copic markers will dry out. They'll wear out. I don't know if you can see this pretty well, but I'm going to try to hold it up like this. And it's pretty wore out. I mean, it's very, let me see if I can hold it up to the other camera here. There we go. See, it's very, very, very frayed at the ends. I'll see if I can hold it to this camera, but this camera's a little bit slow and laggy, so I'll put some light behind it so you can see. Oops, it's very dark. There we go. But see how frayed it is on that one end? On the very end right here, it's very, very frayed. And plus, I've got the scrap paper here. I'll show you. Like, I mean, I know this is a light color, but I mean, it is like super dried out. And if I go to the brush tip, it's wet, but it also, at least behind a gooey stuff, it's, well, see, that's kind of at least like a darker mark. Sometimes the ends of these things will get, especially the brush tips, will get what's called jelly. And it's like an accumulated buildup of just the dried out bits of the marker that come from either inside there, inside the cap, if you can see inside the cap. Let's see if I can get inside the cap really good shot for you. See how that's got accumulated like leftover ink and stuff in there. And plus it'll just dry out on the tip naturally. But what will happen is it'll just get, like I said, just over time it will just wear out and just the ends will get bad. It'll run out of ink. So I've just went ahead and got through all the supplies you need to kind of basically make the marker like new. I have here the felt ends, new replacement ends. These are the brush tips. Basically, these felt ends, and I'll start with this first. You to do this right, you really need just at least these tips and these tips, and the tweezers don't hurt. And I'll go over why these are great in a minute. But basically, these tips are like a hard foam. And this is just like the replacement tip. And this is just a regular, like a piece of foam. And then this part sits in the marker. And then this part is the actual part you color with. But these wear out over time. I mean, I don't know if you can see this very well. But how crisp, sharp that edge is compared to that one. That one's very frayed. So, I mean, you can pull this out with your bare fingers, but this next one, the brush tip side, is very, 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 basically it's constructed around like a core. Let me see if I can draw it here. Basically, it's almost, well, I can't, this is completely worn out. But basically, it's like it's basically like a hard, almost like twisted paper, like a Q-tip would be. And then around that is like a foam, like a triangle wedge applicator for makeup around the tip of it. So there's basically a very hardcore center spiral of a very dense, hardcore paperish substance, and then a soft brush. And this part here will actually come off if you don't pull it off with these tweezers. So this tweezer tool is really great for getting the brush tips out. But what I'll do first is I'm going to go ahead and pull out this end here. And see, I can just pull it out with my finger, see. But, I mean, this is bone dry. I mean, look at that. This should have ink all over it, and it is super dried out. So this is completely over with. And then this will go, I forget which way to put the diagonal. I don't know if it particularly matters. Okay, Copic part. Okay, diagonals goes on the side. I have it backward. So I'm going to just pull this out and put this way. See, like this. And then that's replaced. So now I've got a new tip on this one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tweezers and pull out this brush tip. There we go. Now there's a reason I've got that side separately. I'll show you why in a moment here. So that's got a brand new tip on this end, the new white tip, which will turn color when I put the ink in. I'm going to refill this too. But the reason why I didn't go ahead and just replace it with the brush tip, this can actually be rescued in a lot of cases. You might be able to see in there. See how dirty and accumulated. Let me just take it out of the cup here. How much accumulated like dirt is on this? Well, if you take some of the, this is actually a giant bottle of the colorless blender, and this is the colorless blender refill. Let me turn it right side up so you can read it. But this is literally just a gigantic bottle of the colorless blender ink, and you can actually use this to clean these tips. So what I'll do is I'll squirt some of that in here. I was going to take some of the dirty part of that and conserve some of it. I'm just going to leave that in there and swirl it around a bit. And as you can see, I don't know if you can really tell very well, but it's starting to get kind of gross. The colorless blender is starting to get kind of gross from just soaking in with the brush tip. I don't know if you can see the water very well. It's kind of hard to tell because it's a very, very subtle tint to it from being in with the brush tip, which I'll just kind of leave this sit here to soak for a minute or two. And then while that's doing that, while that's soaking and it's getting cleaner, let me open up this, make sure I got the right one. I always make sure that the cap matches the cap. Whoops. Well, that'll help soak it better. But see, I always make sure these two caps match. I mean, you should have already made sure of that, but I always like to make extra sure. And this is the refill part of it. So I'm just going to open up this refill, which I've ordered for this very demonstration. Well, I ordered it because I needed it, and I figured, hey, while I'm doing this, I might as well go ahead and show people how I do it. So I'm going to completely make this marker like it's new. This refill is about $5 to $7. These brush tips are about $4 for a set of 3. These are like $7 or $8 for a pack of like 10. So it's a lot cheaper in the long run buying replacement tips, which will handle 10 markers worth. Replacement brush tips will handle about 3. Replacement ink, which will handle a bunch. Then to go ahead and just say, oh, I'll just check this marker out and get a new one. It's a little bit extra hassle, but in the long run, it's way cheaper. So let me go ahead and do that. Make sure I got the right end. Okay, good. Now, normally I would fill this with both tips in here and backfill it. But since we're, oops, my heart's squeezing already. But since I've got the brush tip in the other thing, and soaking, I'm going to go ahead and just dump it in this way. And they make like a nozzle that you can fill this in with. And you should be filling this up till about where it gets to the 3 milliliters. That means it'll be about nearly full. I always do it over a piece of scrap paper so I can see if it flows out the end. This one is completely bone dry, and so is this. I always leave the other end open so you can kind of view what's going on at the other end. This camera's giving me so much trouble today. Sorry, guys. Plus, it seems to be very laggy. I'm hoping that's just in my camera and not necessarily the broadcast. If it's very laggy, I apologize. I might do this again. But normally I'd go ahead and backfill, which means I would put in I'd put drops on the felt end here. Oh, it's actually starting to soak in the color. It's actually, you can start to see a little bit of color on that. But normally that's what I would do. I would go ahead and drip it on this tip here. Should be able to see some color on that. See, there we go. See, it's starting to get color in there. I'm gonna let that soak in a minute. And while it's doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and go back to my soaking. Oops, there we go. Go back to my soaking brush tip. So it's kind of not great right now, but I'm going to kind of brush it along a little bit here. Grab it about if I can get it out. Okay, see, I'm just using a paper towel to kind of blot it. And also I'll wipe it off like this. I don't know if it, okay, there we go. So I'll kind of wipe it off like this to get some of the excess. See, there's that hard core I was telling you about. And you can kind of see the little separation there where the little foam tip is. Sometimes I'll just dip it in here and then run it like this. There we go. See, I'd keep this one, except this one is so frayed at the back that this one's pretty much garbage now. But that's okay. Okay. This brush tip may have seen better days too, but we'll see. I've always got the option of replacing it if it's really bad. I'll just go ahead and wedge that in there like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the backfill I'm telling you about. What I do is I drip it on this end here. And sometimes what I'll do is, just for sake of argument, I'll go ahead and put some on the brush tip too. Like that, so I can tell if it's, I'm doing pretty good on that end too. And then what a lot of folks recommend is capping both ends. Give me a shake like that. Yeah, brush just there we go. Whoops, there we go. It's really kind of seems like it's getting full of ink. I'll continue to monitor this brush tip to make sure, see if it's okay. Because sometimes the brush tips aren't going to be 100% okay. Because over time they'll just wear out, especially if they're heavily stained. This one's pretty heavily stained. I've pretty much had this brush tip on this one since I first bought this marker. And you can see I'm kind of slowly filling it in by letting it run down the side of it. Let's make it full here. Oops, that's really full. That should be good and full. As you can see, there's a little bit, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of ink at the back end of it. They got over full, but that's fine though. This means this marker is full to capacity now. It's actually a little bit overfilled, but that's okay. See? And that's basically a brand new tip on that. Cleaned tip on that. It's not 100% clean, but I've always got the option of swapping it out with the brush tips if it turns out that it's not going to be performing well. Got 5 of them. I bought 6, but I already used one. So that gives me the option of, basically swapping it out if it performs poorly. As you can see, I'm getting a lot better. Remember how streaky it was before? Now I'm getting a very, very nice gray color. Weird working with a felt that's really stiff again, because the felts get kind of wore out and you can feel like a give and take back and forth as the loose bits are there. But this is a really nice, really full marker now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save this on YouTube so you guys can see. If it's well, there's that. Well, my camera fell off. But if let me check my camera real quick. Okay, looks like it's doing okay. But if for some reason it doesn't come out well, like if there's a lot of lag in the video or something, I'll go ahead and do it again, trying to minimize any kind of lag or jitter or anything. Just make sure that you guys can see what I just did, because I've got plenty of markers I need to refill. But that's basically it. I just basically made the W0 completely full, and I mean, look at that. That's like brand new marker tone. So hopefully this all came up through all right without any kind of hitches. But if it did, I'll do again. I need to get a better camera rig. Right now I'm using my cell phone as my backup camera for the overhead shots. But in any case, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, my Facebook and my Twitter and my Instagram are right up there. But I would recommend hitting me up on Twitter, or rather than Instagram. Twitter, it's a better place to post questions. And if you do have questions, post them there. I will be doing more broadcasts, more art, and maybe some gaming ones, but mostly art ones. I'm still learning a lot about the process. Like, this is the first time I've had the chat up there. So you all can see what's going on. But in any case, thanks for tuning in. And see you again soon. If you be good, and if you can't be good, at least be safe.